Well, hello, hello, hello. I'm Jane Hogan, the wellness engineer, and this is Wellness by Design. And today we are talking about Lyme disease and the 4 reasons why you still have symptoms. And I'm really excited to welcome Heather Gray here today because she's an expert in Lyme disease. Welcome, Heather.
Hey, thanks, Jane, for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too because I know Lyme disease is one of those really tricky ones. It can take years and years to get a diagnosis. And then, even when people have a diagnosis, they are still suffering with symptoms. And so, I'm going to tell everyone a little bit about you first, and then we'll get started. So, Heather Gray is a functional diagnostic nutritionist practitioner. She found this work after 27 years of undiagnosed Lyme disease, celiac disease, Hashimoto's, and endometriosis. Welcome for autoimmune conditions. She was depressed, anxious, and in chronic widespread pain, bloated, constipated, exhausted, and weight gain, to name a few things. She set out on a path to healing. She has now lost over 100 pounds. Her pain has lessened, no more suicidal thoughts, has all day energy. She now has a practice where she teaches others how to take care of themselves and get inflammation off their body and brain. She teaches you how to be the health boss of your own journey, and she is the Lyme Boss. So, welcome, Heather.
Yay. Hi. How's it going?
Yeah, oh, so good to have you here. A lot of my audience has pain and inflammations. Some people know what it is, some people don't know what it is. So you've had, obviously, from what we just read, quite a journey, your own health journey, which is what I assume brought you into this line of work. So how did you get the answers, Heather, when you started on this journey? How did you get answers?
Man, how long do we have? No, I'm kidding. I've gotten it pretty decent at wrapping it up, but condensing it nicely. But it's funny. I usually tell people it started off. I was pretty much born constipated. I remember sitting on the potty at the age of 4 years old, and my feet falling asleep from sitting there for so long because I was so constipated. And that kind of started my relationship with throwing band-aids at symptoms, right? The
Right.
doctors at the time, giving me these thick, nasty oils, stool softeners, but nobody was, trying to figure out why this 4-year-old was constipated. You know, Looking back, my uncle committed suicide when I was 4. There was a lot of early childhood trauma. I also found out that, I'm celiac, right? So I've got this genetic component towards wheat, and that trauma could have triggered that gene, right? And started my autoimmune process. But there were so many factors at play that like I said, nobody was digging deeper at that time. So, fast forward, many years, and after having an autoimmune disease, a lot of early childhood trauma, I became kind of the perfect host, right? So when I was bit by a tick when I was 13, there was just I was the perfect host,
Hmm.
and developed symptoms about 2 years later when I ended up in the psych ward for the first time with my own suicide attempt. And so again, dealing with doctors who were just throwing prescription at me, antidepressants, mood stabilizers, patting me on the head, patching me up and sending me back out into life again without anybody curious as to why this 15-year-old was trying to off herself. Right. So,
Oh,
yeah.
what a tough, tough journey. I'm so sorry you went through that. Um, and just you're really shown in your situation that these childhood traumas, how they can affect us and then set us up for life, really, of being, well, as you said, when you were the perfect host for Lyme. So what does that mean when you're a perfect host?
Well, so that kind of gets into some of the, 4 reasons why you don't get better from Lyme. So one of them is that early childhood trauma. And so that sets your nervous system up to be stuck in fight or flight all the time. There's always a tiger out to get you, right? You can't rest and digest and heal when you're in fight or flight. And so basically, I was stuck in fight or flight my whole life. So the gas pedal was always on, the stress level was huge. And so therefore, my body was never able to rev itself down and actually heal. So that was one of the huge things I work with folks, because it's so sad. A lot of us in the Lyme community, it takes us years, decades to get an answer. And then we get an answer, right? You get your diagnosis. Sometimes you might even get treatment, but then what? Because most even Lyme literate doctors aren't asking about, early childhood trauma, what's your stress level like? And they're doing everybody a huge disservice, because I've relapsed several times in my lifetime because of that one huge component that I was missing, right? Because again, you can have the best protocol in the world. You can have the best diet in the world. You could be seeing the best therapist in the world. And then if you go out and you're still right on edge, tiger's still going to get you. It's only going to work so much, so,
Hmm.
that was part of the whole perfect storm. The other perfect storm was the fact that I was celiac. So we've got a huge correlation. People are starting to wake up knowing that, if you've got a leaky gut, you have a leaky brain, right? If
Yeah.
you've got these gut issues, it's going to lead you to being more open to, one, your immune system is not going to work the way that it should. So it leaves you open to get all kinds of critters, right? So that was the other way that I was, a perfect host. Eating the standard American diet, right? Ding dongs and ho hos and cereal. And I remember even putting tablespoons of sugar on top of my frosted flakes when I was a kid.
Me too.
Oh my God, right? Like, and then there was like this inch, half an inch coating of sugar in the milk, and you would drink. Oh my gosh, like
And
so.
then you're getting like the triple, the gluten, the dairy, and the sugar all in one.
Oh my gosh, it was the best hit in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
you know, but it, kept my gut inflamed, my brain inflamed, and it helped keep me sick, so those were the other reasons that I was part of a perfect host. And that's also kind of like number two of why people don't get better, is because they focus so much on treatment. And again, I never once had a doctor ask me, what's your stress level like? How are you sleeping at night? How many bowel movements a day are you having? What is your diet like? Nothing. Nobody was ever having those conversations with me. It was, again, here's a prescription. I got to see one guy who was actually giving me some herbals, which was kind of cool. But at the same time, it was still just going to war with my body, with the critters that had been sick for decades. And you
Right.
can't go to war with somebody's body when they have no reserves, right? Like, so many people get so sick from the treatment, and then they get frustrated and they give up, and then they think that there's no hope, because
Yeah.
I've tried the treatment and I'm not getting any better, so this just must be it for me. And that's
Right.
part of why I do what I do, is because I'm over here saying, no, 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 there's more to the story.
So, it's interesting. You mentioned you're in stress your whole life, and I feel like I was too. But did you know that you were in fight or flight? Because I didn't know that I was. It just felt normal to me.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't until, geez, it was probably about 2 years ago now. I was back to being reactive. I had gained weight again. So I had kind of gotten off my healing path, and I relapsed. And when I do that, when I'm that in that much pain and that inflamed, I can be very reactive. I can be moody, very angry. And my husband, at the time, was like, I don't know what's going on with you, but I'm not going to stay married to an angry person. Like, I love you. I want to support you.
Mm.
You got to figure this out. And so it was kind of my wake up call to pull my head out of my butt and to keep searching, right? Because this, when you're on a healing journey, as long as I have been, sometimes it gets exhausting. And sometimes I kind of get in denial, right? And I stop searching for a while, then I plateau, and then something,
Yeah.
picks me back up again and dusts myself off, and I take another run at it. And so that's what this was me, like a wake up call. And so I just kind of put the question out to the universe. I'm like, what am I missing here? What is the next little piece for me? And I don't know how or where it came from, but I started reading The Body Keeps Score.
Oh, such a good book.
Oh my God, I'm sitting on the couch, ugly crying. Like, that book was so triggering. My husband was like, what are you reading? I'm like, this little girl. And he's like, no, 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 don't go into. And I'm like, but I read it. And, then I started neurofeedback, and then I started, somatic experiencing work with Dr. Amy Apigian, the biology trauma, I did her course. And that's really what taught me how to interpret my nervous system and whether I'm in fight or flight, because that's actually kind of key number one, is the awareness of
Oh,
when you're,
yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. And yeah, for me, I've read a lot of different things as well. I've been doing work with Dr. Sue Morter's book, The Energy Codes, and that's all about embodiment, which is very similar to what Dr. Amy does as well. So it's about awareness. And it was sort of when I did that I realized how much I was clenching inside all the time. And I just didn't know it because it was so normal for me. But when you can gain awareness, then you can realize, holy cow, I'm sending a signal to my body all the time that it's a stressful environment.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And you can't heal that way. And so, it was beautiful. I was amazing so she had like a 21-day journey, and every day, we would meet online in her group, and like these exercises that she teaches literally could take 20, 30 seconds a couple times a day, but it completely rewired my nervous system and got me to a whole new level. And so I can't stress, like the brain retraining, whether it's, EDMR or tapping or D.R.E.S.S or Gupta or biology of trauma or the body codes, like, heart math. Like there are so many beautiful things out there right now. The awareness around this piece, right? And like the ACE scores, you'll hear people talk about the adverse childhood
Events.
events. Thank you. I was having a brain fart. I'm like, and how the higher your ACE score, the like it just like triples your ability and your what's the word I'm looking for?
Like your propensity for an autoimmune condition or other chronic conditions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as an adult here, I've got, 4 autoimmune conditions. And I think that's the sad part about American society too, is that we're just, well, maybe in Canada too, we're so, there's an expression in FDN that no matter how common a symptom may be, it's never normal, right? It's
Yeah.
always your body's check engine light coming on saying, hey, there's something going on in here. Don't put a piece of tape over the check engine light, which is what we're doing. And then we wonder, right? So I got to a point where, after the first autoimmune, you would have think that I would be like, okay, I got to change something here. But it took 3 or 4 more later before I finally was like, all right, so many people are just like, that's just, I just, it's just the way it is. It's just
Mm.
normal. Same thing.
Oh yeah. You're
It's
told that it's normal. Once you got one autoimmune condition, it's normal to get another one or two or three. So it's all being normalized when it's common but not normal. That's what I like, really like making that distinction on so many symptoms that people have. They're always told, oh, that's common. Oh, it's very common. Most people get arthritis as they get older. Or most, women have these horrible menopausal symptoms, or whatever it is. We're told that it is normal when it's definitely not normal. Okay, so you figured this out and you've done some work, and I love Dr. Amy's work. She's been on the podcast a couple of times too.
Oh, nice.
And I had her on my side. She's just great. I love that somatic experiencing that she does. So you worked on all of this, but now you help other people, right? So how do you work with someone that comes to you with chronic Lyme?
It's a lot of intake forms in the beginning and a lot of clinical correlation, because sadly, a lot of the testing for chronic Lyme, chronic anything is not the greatest. And so, I've got actually a free intake form that I use from Cellcore that kind of helps me tease out, is it mold? Is it Lyme? Is it co-infections? Is it heavy metals? Is it parasites? Is it mercury? Is it SIBO? So it gives me just a little bit better idea of where to target instead of just kind of throwing things at a wall and seeing what sticks, because I can run a lot of labs and it gets really expensive, right?
Yeah.
And and treatment for a lot of long-term stuff can be expensive. So if somebody's got a limited amount of funds, I'd rather than focusing it on building a cleaner foundation, right, than throwing it away on labs. But
Mhm.
so it just kind of depends, what somebody's showing up with symptoms wise, what they've already tried. But everybody starts with the foundations. And in FDN, it's called D.R.E.S.S. It's diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. So it's funny, I call myself the Lyme Boss, but really I can work with anybody. in any field, because I'm not diagnosing and I'm not treating any specific disease. I'm helping lay down those foundations that are required for anybody to get better long term and stay better long term, right? So they're
Mhm.
not relapsing.
I love that because, well, you're probably feel a lot the same as me that our body can heal. We just need to give it the environment to allow it to heal, right? Whether we're dealing with an autoimmune condition like rheumatoid, or we're dealing with Lyme disease, or whatever it is, we can provide the environment where our body can heal. So can we just go through the D.R.E.S again that you just mentioned, just for the audience? I think it'd be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So D, diet, R, rest, E, exercise, S, stress reduction, and other S, supplementation. That's where a lot of, actually, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine with other functional practitioners, because a lot of them have just switched prescriptions out for supplements,
I
right?
know that really bothers me too.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you're walking into a new practitioner, and even if they say they're functional or they're acupuncturist and they're not talking to you about stress and your diet and lifestyle, run, right? I had an acupuncturist that I left their office one day with like $500 worth of supplements, no explanation on how to take them. So of course I take them all at once and I get a side effect and then I don't know what it is. And so I aborted the whole process. But, there was never any talk about, again, I was severely constipated at the time. You're going to shove all these, herbals and these supplements into a constipated person. Like, that should be the first thing that you're working on, is opening up a person's detox pathways. Like,
Right.
drives me bonkers. So again, if someone just, switches out a prescription for a supplement and there's no further conversation or deeper, digging deeper into the root cause, run, 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 run.
Yeah. There is someone out there for you. You don't have to stick with that practitioner.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm. So when you talk about the diet part of D.R.E.S, what's your first recommendations with that?
Yeah, so that's one of the other, so there's number two of how people don't get better when treating Lyme, is they're so I can use the same analogies I used earlier. You can have the best therapist in the world, the best treatment in the world, the best, you fill in the blank, and then if you go and leave that therapist and go eat McDonald's, right, and you inflame your gut and you inflame your brain, that treatment is only going to work a quarter of what it could, because you've just now activated all the inflammation in your body, and your body can't heal when it's inflamed.
Mhm.
So I love testing for food sensitivities, because those are what we call low-hanging fruit in the business, right? I've seen miracles happen in 2 weeks of somebody following their food sensitivity diet. So I mentioned leaky gut, leaky brain. So we have tight junctions, right, in our gut, and nothing's supposed to be able to get through that barrier, except when we are under a lot of stress. We take prescription drugs, antibiotics, heavy metals, chronic disease, acts like a battering ram on our gut, pokes holes through our lining, and now food that it's supposed to only be in our gut is now getting into our bloodstream, and our immune system is causing war. It's like, hey, Apple, what the heck are you doing here? And, send in the guards. And now we've got collateral damage because our body's going to war with apples. So every time we eat apples, it re-goes to war with itself. Well, when we inflame our gut that way, like I said, there is a connection between the gut and the brain. We're also inflaming our brain that way. And so these foods that we eat very much, um, not just causes inflammation in the gut. It's not localized like that. It's a systemic everywhere issue. And so if you're not, when you take out those food sensitivities, what a person's reacted to at the time, like, it's, people have lost like massive amounts of weight. I mean, I lost like 40 pounds in my first month. I had a woman who came to me for weight loss, and then she tells me 2 weeks in, oh, the daily migraines I had were leaving. And I was like, wait a minute, you came to me for weight loss. Why on earth did you not talk to me about daily migraines? But again, it was common to her, but she didn't realize that wasn't how life is supposed to be.
Right.
So what a gift to live a day without a freaking migraine. Like, so I
Amazing.
love testing for food sensitivities. And then I usually typically put them on like a paleo type diet,
Yeah.
because grains are one of the number one causes for autoimmune disease. Dairy is very inflammatory, and so is like corn. So I typically take people off the big bads, as we call them, and then teach them how to rotate their diet and heal their gut. And So that's one of the big ways that, like I said, if you're missing that piece in your protocol, you're gonna end up relapsing, or you're not gonna get completely better. You're gonna end up staying frustrated and inflamed and
Mhm.
lose hope, and it's just this whole vicious cycle.
Yep, yep. Okay, so that was the D, and the R was
Rest.
rest.
Yeah, sleep. Oh my gosh. I remember when I was younger, I'm like, I'm gonna sleep when I'm dead. I can sleep when I'm dead, and that was like that burning the candle at both ends lifestyle. And I look back on it now and I'm like, oh, my poor body. I'm so sorry, because I covet my sleep now. Like, I can't wait to get one of those Aura rings and actually, start tracking, my
Mhm.
sleep, because I love having those numbers and data. See, I want one so bad. Um, but sleep is just pivotal, and so many people are staying up too late because we've got all this artificial light, we've got this go 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 lifestyle. And that's one of the biggest problems why there's so much chronic illnesses right now, is because as humans, we are not living in accordance to how we were built. We are too
Mhm.
far off the mark, and now people are getting sick.
Yep.
Just because we can stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning doesn't mean that we're supposed to, you know.
The other thing I find about when you've got the data, like with an Aura ring or whatever you're using to track your sleep, I know for me, I can really see, okay, if I stay up late, if I have a really late night, I can see what happens first, not just my sleep, but I can see what's happening to my heart rate variability. I can see what's happening, with my heart rate, other things that are going on in my body at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, different things like eating late at night, for example, or eating something I probably shouldn't eat, or having alcohol, any of those things you can really see. You can't argue with the data, right? It's right there, and
Absolutely.
so you can see what's going on with your body. So I love having a tracking tool like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we got rest, DRE. Now DR. No, we haven't got to the E yet. E now.
Exercise.
Exercise.
It's so funny because I mean, I grew up in the cardio, go, 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 go to lose weight, right? I told you at one point in my life I was 100 pounds overweight. I've struggled with my weight my whole life. But the sad thing is if you have a chronic illness, stress on the body is stress on the body. Our body doesn't know the difference between good stress and bad stress, right?
Mm.
And so over exercising, this CrossFit craze, it's hurting people's adrenals, it's hurting people's bodies, and they're not able to get out of that fight or flight. It's keeping them stuck. And so I tell people when they first start working with me, I'm like, this is where I want you to live for the next 3 months. Yoga, walking, light weights, like that's it. And they look at me like it's so counterintuitive, and it's funny because it happens again and again and again. These women who've been trying to lose weight for forever, all of a sudden the weight comes off because we removed one more burden, right? One more stress burden off the body. And then the body goes, oh, okay, I can breathe now. I know what I'm supposed to do, right?
Yeah, I know. I've seen it in a lot of, especially I think as women get older, right? That in that menopausal state, they're still like, I'm working out and all the time, but I'm not losing weight. Well, it's hard, like you said, it's counterintuitive to say you probably need to lay off the exercise. But that's the way it works. Just stop putting stress on the body.
Yeah. Yeah. In the last year, my husband lost 75 pounds and I've lost 50. And we did it by walking.
Huh,
Walking. We just
walking.
recently started putting weights into our and he started doing HIIT, but that we didn't start off that way. Like I said, we're doing that now to kind of tone up and to build a little muscle, because as he's 45, I'm 44. As we get older, it's really good to get those weight bearing, to help build strong bones, right? So that
Hmm.
we don't set ourselves up for osteoporosis when we get older. So, but
Yep.
yeah, we didn't start off that way. We started off by walking.
Right. Okay. So that's a great eye opener for people. So now on to the first of the two S's.
So stress reduction. And that's a lot of the, what we kind of talked about right in the beginning, whatever your flavor is, whether it's, neurofeedback or tapping or D.R.E.S.S or body codes or somatic experience or heart math or, whatever it takes to help chill your nervous system out. Breath work. Oh my God, breath work. That's so
That's what
easy.
I love to teach.
Oh my God, I love breath work.
Yeah. I do
I
I do too. It's such a simple place to start, right? Everyone can breathe. You've always got it with you. You don't really have to remember too much.
I poo-pooed it for so long because I was just like, well, I'm breathing every day, crazy people. If it was that good for you, then why hasn't it helped me now? But I never realized what a shallow chest breather I was. And once I learned breath of fire and did that daily, like, oh my God, what a game changer as far as like
Yeah.
keeping more level, more in touch with my emotions, not as reactive. Like it was insane
Mm.
what breath work has done for me. So like highly recommend looking into it. So that's great that that's you teach breath work. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. It's one of my cornerstones. I always kind of enjoyed it because I did yoga and stuff, but once I became a yoga instructor and then the energy codes book that I mentioned, a lot of that is focused on breath work. It's how we one way we get back into the body again, right? And really connect with that I believe the spiritual side of ourselves as well. So, yeah, love that. Okay, the second S.
Supplementation. And so it's kind of where I was going with so many other even functional practitioners. They will start with the supplements, and you can't supplement your way out of a bad diet. You can't
Right.
supplement your way out of a crappy night's worth of sleep, so they're putting the cart before the horse. So again, if you're working with somebody and they're not having these other foundations in place first, and all they're wanting to do is go straight to this big bag of hundreds of dollars worth of supplements, run.
Hmm. Yep. So it's the last place you get to once these other things are in place, or is it like five pronged at once?
That's kind of how I go about doing things, but I'm starting to find out that not everyone is built like me, and I have to go a little slower and gentler with a lot of folks. I haven't met too many pull off the band-aid and let's just get her done type of people like me. Um, yeah, I think that it's great. I mean, you kind of get there a little bit faster, but sometimes it can cause a little havoc. And most people, especially with Lyme, mold, chronic illness, they've got a level of brain fog, and they can get into overwhelm, especially with their nervous system that's been, so
Right.
high for so long. So it's better to start off slower and kind of peel this back. It's not a sprint, it is a marathon, right? I was sick for decades and it took me a minute, to get better. It's amazing what can happen in the first 90 days. Like that's
It
what
is.
never ceases to amaze me. Like in 3 months people get so overwhelmed, and it's just like, no man, just take the first step with me and you'll be amazed at what can happen in 3 months. It might not be completely done. I had one guy who did a really great job for 3 months, but we still had to do a little bit more digging, a little bit more clearing up, and I think his journey was more like 9 months. But even if it's a year, you know I mean, in a blink of an
Yeah.
eye, a new year happens. Like, could you
Mm.
imagine what you can accomplish in a year? Like, if you
Yeah.
just start?
And it's not like nothing happens for a year and then boom. It's like, you're gradually getting better. So they're seeing results. I always find it amazing too, Heather, and just how the small things add up to make big changes. Kind of like the the little things that you do every day are more important than what you do once in a while, right? So it's
Amen. Can I get a hallelujah?
hallelujah. Yeah. So it's all these little baby steps. So when you can break it down into small, then it really helps people. I want to go into a little bit of a point that you made when we were previously discussing what we might talk about today. You talked about the bioenergetics of Lyme. So I'd love to hear what that means to you.
So, geez, Lyme folks are kind of notorious for trying anything because one, we've been dismissed for so long. Like chronic Lyme wasn't even recognized until just very recently by the medical community, and so it was really hard to get treatment. And so Lyme folks are kind of known for trying some of the most controversial, underground type of stuff out there to get better because we've had to become our own health advocates for so long. And so I learned in the beginning of my treatment stuff about Rife. And so Royal Rife back in the 1930s, he was, one of the first ones who noticed that everything had a frequency, right? Everything has its own vibration. Same thing with Tesla. So it was all those brilliant men around that time with this stuff. And a lot of that technology got suppressed for decades. And it seems to be making a comeback. And it's a beautiful thing. And so I've worked with several different machines throughout the years, and I had some that were really, really great for the diagnosing part, but not so great for the treatment part. And so it always kind of left me frustrated. And so again, I would kind of put it off to the side and wouldn't think about it for a while. But I think it's somehow how I'm wired. It calls to me. And so when me and you met at Mindshare, there was a company there called D.R.E.S.S, and Harry Massey, the CEO, was there speaking and talking about energetics. And so it was speaking my language again, and it re-sparked my love and my passion for this type of healing work, because Lyme folks, chronic ill folks, mold folks have a tendency to, like I said, be really sensitive. We're really toxic. Our toxic burden is way overloaded. And so sometimes when you do add even a simple protocol on, a person can get really, really sick, or they get what they call a healing crisis or a Herx response, a Herxheimer response.
Right.
And and so it can be tough to move the needle with folks like that, because like I said, sometimes even just switching a little diet stuff can send them into a Herx response, and then they have a hard time moving forward. And so I was always looking for a gentle way in to help move the needle with folks, and also with that nervous system stuff that I talked about, because I know that's going to help move that needle even more if we can get a person calmed down. And so I found this D.R.E.S.S machine, and it does exactly that. And so it does a bioenergetic scan of the person's bioenergetic body, and can kind of tell me where trauma and stored emotions are in the body, and how to kind of gently move that stuff out without like having to get triggered by it, like in talk therapy, right?
Right.
So it kind of, it helps move that stuff out of the nervous system gently. Like, it was incredible. I mean, with all the work that I've done, I didn't expect to have such noticeable benefits the first month. And the first month, like, my sleep was out of this world. I was remembering my dreams every single morning, and they were crazy. And I would sit at breakfast with my husband telling him about the crazy dreams I had the night before. Um, my moods were a lot more calm. I wasn't flipping people off on the highway when I was driving to Denver and back. So that was like a huge win for me, right? It was subtle, but it was like these subtle little big moments that I was noticing. It's like, wow, this is legit. And so, when you're working with frequencies and the energetic body, it's like I said, it's a gentle way to kind of help move through some of this stuff. It's prepping the body before we actually start working with the body, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Right. So working at like an energy level first.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what is this machine that you're talking about? What does it look like? What is it? What is it?
So it's a software component, and you can work in person or remotely. And so if it's in person, a person puts their hand on this scanner and it scans the bioenergetic field. But if it's remote, it's actually scanning your voice. And so you talk into it, because the vagus nerve, right, is connected to everything. And if we've got a bunch of inflammation in certain areas of our body, it's going to show up in our vocal cords. And so it's actually detecting weaknesses in our voice. And
This,
yeah,
man, this is so interesting because our voice is our vibration, right? It's part of who we are. There's no other, we're all unique that way. So this is really fascinating. So do you have your own machine, or you work with someone who has this machine?
no, I went all in. So from the time I met you at Mindshare, so in October, like, I dove deep in with this stuff, became certified in the last month to be a bioenergetic practitioner. And I ran like over 75 scans on people in the past month and a half. Like, I haven't had a day off. It's probably why I just got sick, is because I wasn't following my own advice. But I was just
We
so
tend to do that.
yeah, I was just so excited, because like I said, I believed in this so much. And this was my fifth type of technology of like using stuff like this. And this is the first time I've actually experienced shifts, not just telling me that this is off and this is off and this is off. And I'm like, well, yeah, I kind of already knew that, but how do I help it? And so It's got a handheld part of the machine, which is a PEMF device and also a TENS unit. And then how it actually helps shift that stuff out. Well, also it makes a meditation that's specialized for you on what it found in the scan, which is incredible. The first time
Wow.
I cried because it was like she was speaking directly to my soul. It was like it was incredible. But it's got these other supplements that it recommends. They're called infoceuticals, and they're basically structured water because we know water carries information. And it's imprinted with 10,000 volts of electricity. So unlike a homeopathic, where you can't take it through an x-ray and you can't take it around, peppermint and eating, and there's certain things with homeopathics that you have to stay away from. Those rules don't apply to this because it's electricity that's imprinted it instead of a homeopathic. But it's basically like a new, it's a software download, basically, right, for your body and your cells so that it can right itself. It scans for what's out of balance, and then it has these recommendations of what's going to help put it back in balance.
So it's personalized based on your frequency that you're
Absolutely,
emitting.
100%.
So fascinating. So fascinating. Okay, I might have to get you back on to talk about that in another show. I'm so interested in that. Okay, I know we're running out of time, so I want to get to the question that I always ask my guests, and that is because we're all about intentional living on Wellness by Design, and we talked about the baby steps, right? How important baby steps are. So, what would you say is one baby step someone could take today to improve their health?
The easiest, simplest baby step is to get outside and get moving 20 minutes. We talked about walking. It's don't underestimate the power of simplicity. And walking incorporates so many things in once that we need. So one, you're getting fresh air, right? Instead of being stuck in your office or in a cubicle, sitting. They say sitting is the new smoking, right? So you're walking, you're getting fresh air, you're getting vitamin D, which is
Mhm.
absolutely imperative for good health, and you're moving. So our lymph, right, our
Yeah.
detoxification can't happen if we're not moving. And so that's some of that's like the talk about low hanging fruit. Get outside and walk every day, 20 minutes. That's it. Start there.
Perfect. If you can do it barefoot, even better, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I've got a stepson who was all snarky a couple months ago with me, and he was just like, you could tell he was just like crawling out of his skin. And I told him, I'm like, get your butt out there and get your feet on the ground. And he was like, what? I'm like, you heard me. And so he did. He grabbed a chair, took off his socks, and he sat out there. And I saw him fighting with it for a minute. When he came back in, he was a completely different kid. Like
I-
I was like, I knew it worked, but I was still even kind of shocked at like the difference of like this snarky little punk, and then he came back a completely different kid just by putting his feet on the ground.
Love it, Heather. Okay, I know you've got a download that will share the link with the audience in the notes. So let's hear a little bit about this resource that you want to share with everyone.
Yeah, so I told you diet, right? Number one, D. And so many folks kind of got stuck there because they don't even know how to cook, right? We've been with this microwavable in a box type of society for so long that people were like, so I decided to make a 7-video series called Real Cooking for Real Life. And it's me in my kitchen using some very simple tools to help show you how to make a healthy, delicious, yummy meal in under 20 minutes or less. Um, just to help, like I said, get over that hump of really how fun, and amazing cooking can be, and your body and your mind will thank you for it.
I think it's a skill a lot of people lost, Heather, and we kind of knew that with COVID in the beginning of COVID when everyone had to stay home and they couldn't go to restaurants. It was like what people had lost the cooking skill. So anyway, beautiful, beautiful gift to give people. So thank you for that. Now, where's the best place for everyone to find you, Heather?
So new website, woohoo, the limeboss.com, easy peasy. And if you have any questions, you can always reach me at heather@thelimeboss.com.
Okay, perfect. Heather I love what you shared today. It was so good and helpful, not just for people with Lyme, but really with people facing any chronic condition. And I definitely want to have you back talking about the bioenergetics and that machine. So let's do that down the road. Meanwhile, thank you so much for being a guest today on Wellness by Design. And thank you to all the audience for listening, for watching, whatever you're doing. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, please share this podcast with them. You could change their life. All right. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you later.